thinking. So just to give you an idea, to put some everyday language around this, with the body, you know, you'll feel headaches, you might feel tight in your chest, you might feel a knot in your stomach, you might feel a lump in your stomach. So if you stop and think, you can sort of quickly do a bit of a body scan and see where that stress is. And that's in itself really helpful. If you can't actually think about how you are feeling, if you can't put words on those feelings, just knowing where it is in your body, and then doing things like breathing and really taking time for yourself. And again, I'd encourage you, if for those listening, take time and know you've got to look after yourself as well as look for support from your partner and your extended network.
Yeah, I think that's where that sort of boundaries comes in as well of Brené's, because sometimes you have to set that boundary for yourself, because sometimes the other person doesn't realize, you know, so set that boundary and make sure, you know, I need to do this, or I need to go for that walk, or, you know, making sure that you can have that space.
That is so important. The exercise, the time for oneself, the ability to focus on one's work.
Yeah.
And it brings me to some conversations I've been having with this idea of what can you control, and there's a variety of responses. But two are that some people say we're making the picture smaller. We're focusing on what we can do within our family and looking after our family and being in the garden and growing and whatever. And then others say actually it's helpful to think of what's this going to do for us. It depends on what your work is as well as your personality and your values and your interests. But it can help to think, what am I going to take from this? Or what can I do more of in terms of my interests right now? And important if you're working to be able to do your work. It gives you a bit of a break.
And it's great for children to see as well that you are, you know, doing different things and trying different things. They're more likely to come and join in with you as well. So
yes. So the body, yes, and then the emotions of, I think there's a lot of fear, probably, sadness, feeling overwhelmed, angry, difficulty switching off, or people actually switching off and going into that place of denial, and the inability to feel any pleasure and having nothing to look forward to. So two things here. Really try and bring as much pleasure in as possible. Connect with your friends. Really important to do this via video links if you can. So important to see a person's face, to see their eyes. Really, really important to see them smiling.
Yeah.
The other, so that's one thing, is the importance of finding pleasure where you can, and people are doing online games and connecting up with Zoom and so on. The other thing is that there are some feelings that are a bit misleading, like anger. You've really got to stop and think about, why am I angry? Anger in itself is really, really important, but so often it covers hurt. It covers a sense of being overwhelmed or being let down, you know? And in order to get to those needs, you've got to work out what it is that you're actually feeling. And anger can be a good go-to, you know, a sort of a shortcut, and it's confusing. So then there are the actions, and there's the sort of active and the passive, which I've mentioned. We can blame, we can withdraw, we can overdo, go around like headless chickens, and that doesn't help, because then we feel like we've not achieved anything. We can't focus, we can't relax, and we certainly can't listen. So we're in fight, flight, and freeze. Then the thoughts, you know, these can be black and white, never going to change, and things aren't ever going to be good again. It's really important not to use this black and white thinking, because it's so rarely the case, and all it does is it makes us more frightened. This relentless thinking, catastrophizing. I won't be able to keep my children safe. My partner might have a heart attack and leave me alone. I might end up on my own. My children are going to be irreversibly affected by this. Nobody understands how I feel. You know, really very strong thoughts that are probably not true. And it's very easy for me to say this, but there are ways to manage these thoughts. And I think I haven't put it in the resources, but I shall do. I'll add the work of Kristin Neff and Chris Germer, who have lots of resources on their websites about mindfulness and how to manage this relentless ruminating thinking that comes from a place of fear. I can understand where it comes from. And in terms of what that does to the relationship is that we see anger, conflict, judgment, lack of understanding, misinterpretation, assumptions being made. You know, I feel terrible when you say that, so you must have meant to hurt me. No, that was an assumption and an interpretation, and not true necessarily, you know. So don't, check it out, be curious. So important in this time to be curious. What is going on? Don't assume. So when we're under stress, sorry, Rebecca.
It's so interesting you say that, because my husband and I had quite a bad day the one day, and then when we sat down at the end of the day, I suddenly just went, I feel really scared. And I'd literally torn his head off all day long.
Okay, you were scared.
And I was then able to finally, I think because obviously the children got to really think how I felt. That's what it was down to.
How did you work out? I mean, it might be just useful as an example, if you don't mind. How did you figure out you were scared?
Oh, well, I came into the news being on.
Oh, yes.
And I don't really watch it. I watch it once a week and it was on, and I realised that it just kind of was quite evident that's how I was feeling underneath all those things,
And then you were able to tell him?
Yes, and it's just so lovely once you're able to, it's that kind of feeling a need, able to then express it, meant he went, oh, come here, you know. So it really helped. And it felt like all the stuff that had happened in the day doesn't matter anymore, because we knew what the problem was.
That's an example of you taking responsibility for your feelings. And it transformed your relationship. Didn't it? It dissolved all that bad feeling, because he could, you opened yourself up, that braving the connection that Brené Brown talks about. Yes. And so I've been talking about the impact of all this stress personally, and there's also the impact of the stress on the relationship. And I think you asked me earlier, what does it look like? What are the signs? And again, this is a time for listeners to make a point, I think, to stop and think, because you've got to give this stuff attention. You've got to become more aware, otherwise you can't do anything with it. So the giving it attention and becoming more aware gives you control. Okay, so what you might identify are patterns of conflict. She shouts, I walk out. I close down. She shouts, I shout louder. Then we bring up all the old hurts from the past. Who knows? But there'll be anger, withdrawal. There's a loss of connection. That's frightening, because that's essential for our safety, and we know that deep down from the moment we're born. There's little sharing, the pleasure isn't there in life anymore, and there's a breakdown in trust, and that's to name just a few.